We'll get some people in here. Man, I need to get some sleep. Kind of hard to do nowadays, isn't it? Today we're going to talk about the Chinese hot air balloon that is traversing the continental United States as we speak. This is also going to be a little bit quicker. I'm not sure how much time exactly I have, but this will be definitely probably less than a half hour or around a half hour for this one today, guys. Also, I'm going to be kind of winging it a little bit too. This is new to me. I don't usually do this. I'm more of the guy who prepares a little bit more. That's why you guys have never seen me do any kind of daily news updates and things. Just because I don't have the ability to prepare. Now that we do live, we can maybe start doing this a little bit more. The only thing is I'm going to lack a little bit of preparation, so I'm going to wing it a little more. So I hope it doesn't drag on and it's not enjoyable for you guys, but I think it will be. So this spy balloon, it's a terrible occurrence. I'm sick about it. Okay, when you look at the official narratives, assuming that we're going to follow the official narrative here, I went to bed last night sick to my stomach because I'm a patriot, and this isn't America. Okay, you guys should be pissed off about it too. Just the fact that China thinks that they can do this, if it really is China doing this, that fact alone pisses me off. The second thing is that they are claiming that they're not going to shoot this thing down. That right there, not the Pentagon coming out and doing a presser and saying that they're not going to shoot this down is it's mind-boggling. It's I can't even wrap my head around it. And they're claiming that it has to do with potential property damage from the wreckage or people being hurt. And I just wanted to ask you, any of you guys, have you ever been to Montana, where this thing first was reported being seen? Big sky country, right? So do you think that that's not a very densely populated area at all? These people are full of shit. Not gonna knock that thing down because of potential. You're kidding me, right? If you flew a drone into a restricted airspace, they're gonna shoot you down. They don't give a fuck. If you flew your plane if you were a pilot and flew your plane into a restricted area, they will scramble and they will threaten to shoot your ass down. And if you don't, let yourself be escorted out, they will shoot your ass down. But when China sends a balloon over and it's first seen in Montana, one of the least populated states in our union, they're not going to touch it. And they give the sheep the excuse that they don't want to damage property or potentially people. Well, how much damage is the spying going to do to us long term? It's all bullshit. The fact that we're accepting it is a problem. It's a big problem. Oh, do they? So Old Soul Laughing says China owns a huge amount of land in Montana. I know they own a whole bunch of land all over the U.S. I didn't know where a lot of that was concentrated at. Hell, we know they own our ports. I can't even fathom this, but this could be. They own our ports. If they're able to use an EMP or something and shut down some military bases, which might be what they're doing intel on, they could be bringing troops ahead of time for months. Stop and order. I'm looking at his property, right? Yeah, that's so old soul laughing, saying, yeah, stop an owner from looking at their property. Yeah, right. He or she's right. Old soul's right, because China does own us, and that's why they're not shooting the damn thing down. But what if months ahead of time, in these ports, they own the Long Beach port, they own a couple, they own many ports. What if they are slowly bringing in military equipment, storing it in the crates or whatnot or whatever? Have a couple people, agents on the ground accepting in this stuff. They own the ports, and they're disabling our military defenses. Okay, and we'll get more into this balloon. And then at the same time, they're bringing in troops and equipment through the ports. And don't forget Soy Boy Trudeau up north, which, again, that could be where the spy balloon even was launched. Because remember, in Vancouver, the Chinese are setting up bases and police headquarters and whatever they're calling it. They could call it a police headquarters to monitor their own citizens. If you guys recall that story a few months back, well, maybe that's just what they're saying that they're doing there. This could be military bases. It probably is, disguised as police headquarters that are designed to look for just Chinese. Again, more bullshit, just to look at the Chinese citizens in these countries. Are you kidding me? So these could be clandestine military bases. Okay, and this equipment from these ports that are coming in, unbeknownst to any Americans, could be, I mean, they could be staging right now. And if any of those balloons have a EMP on them, then, and they may have something, because the Pentagon said that they didn't want to shoot it down because of the payload that's on it. Okay, let's stop. So let's get back to this balloon. Okay, so the Pentagon already knows that there's a payload on it. They know the payload. That's so. What is it? What is this thing carrying? They never said. But yet they know. Now, how do they even know? Did they just find out when they seen it in Montana? And in fact, they didn't. The U.S. and the Pentagon didn't see that in Montana. They've known about it for days, according to reports. Don't know who reported it, but it's being reported everywhere now that Biden was briefed on it. He knew about it days ahead of time. Okay, so the U.S. knew about it days ahead of time. Okay, in which case, when it was above some 500-acre forest over Montana, why didn't they shoot it down then? They wait till it gets down more into densely populated areas. Then they come out with the presser and say, now it's over St. Louis. And they say, well, we don't want to shoot it down because of damn it. Well, you guys knew about it for days. You could have shot it down. Hell, you could have shot it down over Canada. Think about this. They're saying that this thing came from China. It crossed the Pacific in a slightly northwesternly or northeastern way, and then came into Alaska, and then went down southeast towards Montana, and then traversing like a Gulf Stream would at that point. In fact, I think that's what it's following. That's following the Gulf Stream. So if you can remember watching some Al Roker and his map, you'll see how the northwest area then is where the Gulf Stream comes in, and it goes down through St. Louis, and then it kind of shoots back up and then heads over to Michigan and Buffalo, okay, into the northeast. So they could have shot this thing down before it came into the United States. Okay, so if it came into Alaska and then hugged the west coast of Canada and came down on the west coast of the U.S. up there in Montana, first of all, we have NORAD right over there in Colorado. They've seen this thing. They admit that they've seen it days ahead of time. You don't think that we have defenses that in the Northwest, right by NORAD, that watches so many miles into the Canadian border for threats? I guarantee you they do. for incoming threats coming in from Canada. They would have seen it. They could have shot the damn thing down in front of Canada where it's even more sparsely populated. But they gave you a bullshit excuse as to what they're doing. Because people and property. Now, so they weren't even going to tell the people. It took a investigative journalist in Montana to report this because they seen it in the sky and a local paper reported it. That's the only way we even know about it. So there's your media control again that I rail about every video I do. And so in case you don't believe it, here you go. Okay? They're not going to report on it. So it takes some local yokels to do it. That's the future. Now, let's talk about it. Now, we're in a very interesting time in our world right now. We've just been battered through with this COVID stuff. And with the forced vaccines and stuff. And now we're starting to see SADS, sudden adult death syndrome. We have insurance actuaries reporting 17, 18% death rates from last year and the year before. More people are hearing about it. It looks like Elon Musk has freed Twitter somewhat, and that was huge because the story hasn't been told yet, but Twitter is one of the main media organizations in the world that is important to the controllers because it can be even more powerful than your daily newspapers and your weekly magazines and even your nightly news shows. Because your nightly news shows, while we think they're 24-hour cycles and stuff, they're not really. They're a little bit delayed. Twitter is immediate. And they never made a big deal about it because they didn't want people to know about it because they had them a golden goose with that. And so they never really spoke about it. But Twitter is huge, you guys. And so since Musk has freed that up, this information about this COVID, about the sudden adult death syndromes, drones, it's all coming out right now. And that's been helped with Project Veritas with their reporting with this Jordan so-and-so guy, the director from Pfizer. Now, there's been 3 videos now. I don't know if you guys know, but James O'Keefe released the one, and then that one was about gain of function that they're doing, Pfizer itself. The second one was where the guy got all flamboyant and tried to play a victim when he got caught. Well, hours before this balloon was reported on, James O'Keefe released a 3rd video from this clown. And in this one, he's talking to his wannabe gay lover about menstrual cycles of women being severely affected from this. He claims that he's not sure what's going on, but they're being real cautious with it to try and figure out what it is. He goes on to say some crazy stuff like, can you imagine if the whole next generation is really screwed up? What a scandal that would be. It's like, he knows damn well what they're doing because he has the foresight, but yet he's still doing it. It's sick. So we already knew this because even years ago, people like you and people like me were talking about how fertility rates are messed up. We were talking about miscarriages way up. We also talked about menstrual cycles being screwed up. We knew this. We see the reports because of where we get our information from. So this stuff is now coming out. We see journalists going and getting Albert Bourla, and putting him on the spot, and he shows his true colors. And then the Project Veritas had a reporter that went and went and found the Google Trust and Security and Safety and Security head. I can't remember that person's name, but it was in a neighborhood. He was walking home, it looked like. And a Project Veritas reporter found him, and it looked just like that DeVos Albert Burlow interview by Rebel News, where they're like, "Sir, when is enough money for you in these boosters? When is enough people dead going to be enough for you?" And it was just awesome. This was the same thing with the Google Trust and Safety expert head. They said, "Why did you ban it?" Because they banned this Project Veritas video with this Pfizer executive. They banned it from YouTube. So this is why the reporter was hounding the Google executive. And he wouldn't talk. He never said a word until near the end of the supposed interview, where once again the Google exec, just like the Pfizer exec, turned victim. He says he accused the Project Veritas reporter of touching him. Must be with the microphone while he's walking next to him trying to get answers, and puts the microphone up to him. He claims he touched him. So he says, "Don't touch me. I'm going to be calling the cops. You touched me." Again, victim. They go to this victim mentality as soon as they get questioned with something or put on the spot. All of a sudden, they're a victim. That's been created for decades. Our children, I hope you parents are recognizing that. Don't let your children become victims, because it's a lot easier in life later on for them to just roll over. And it's inside of a lot of us. Soy boys. Now, my question is, so since all of this stuff is coming out, seems fast and furious coming out. I mentioned Twitter's freed, and I think that plays a big role in it. That's why I mentioned that, because I think that that's bigger than we think. And so now with Twitter, now I'm still not back on there, Elon. I know you're not watching this, but somebody get this to him now. Come on. You got to unban me. You got to unban all of us. Okay? But anyways, so with Twitter being free, this information is really coming out fast and furious right now. So could this spy balloon be a distraction? And we don't even know what's coming on the horizon here. There might be a really big tidbit of information coming out about COVID. I mean, who saw this menstrual cycle stuff from the Pfizer exec coming? I didn't. So we don't even know what might be coming, but the deep state does. So is this spy balloon, is this a distraction, a deep state distraction? Is it even China's balloon? Now, you guys understand full well, Old Soul mentioned it. We're owned by China. Okay, that's the realization. That's why I couldn't sleep last night, because of this. I don't like to be owned. All right. Okay. I come from a long line of patriots, and that first generation of patriots, they didn't like to be owned. Okay, by a fucking king. Okay. Now we're owned by a chairman. Now, since we're owned by China, why do the balloon? Why wouldn't we just use our own intel and just share it like Hillary Clinton was doing with a closet server, or like Joe Biden and others meet at the Penn Center and share classified information with the Chinese? Why wouldn't they just do it like that? I think they probably would. They have control. They have that much control, you guys. We know this. Hillary Clinton's servers got 30 good guys that we had embedded into the CCP back in the early 2000s, where they began and to be infiltrated, and then up until another decade or so, there was a lot of time and a lot of money invested in these people, and God knows what could have happened in the CCP had these agents or assets been able to be fully developed. So Anyway, 30 some of them, I believe, were executed. They were found and killed because of these SAPs being shared, these special access program information being shared with the Chinese through a shell company that they were CCing every communication onto the HRC server, and they were CCing it right over to a Chinese shell company. So whatever information this spy balloon is supposedly gathering, they could just give that information to the Chinese. Okay? So it leads us to a couple things. Maybe it's not a surveillance balloon. Maybe because we know that it's carrying some sort of a large payload, because the Pentagon told us. Because that's why they don't want to shoot it down. He mentioned the payload multiple times. And I don't know why nobody's really picking up on this yet. But they've mentioned the payload. Well, what is it? I mean, if it's surveillance, I mean, what do they need? You know, a couple hearing devices and some computer stuff. So it leads me to believe that they didn't. This tells me that they didn't need to launch this balloon off into the continental United States. It seems to me like they wanted you. Granted, they didn't report it, and it took an investigative journalist to do it. But maybe they were going to report it at some point, or maybe they knew that somebody was going to see it. Maybe this is what they wanted. They wanted somebody to see it and report it. Maybe, because then it creates a bigger distraction. Okay? Because as I said, whatever information that it's gathering, our crooked politicians would probably just share it with them. Hell, our military might. Milley could call them up just like he did in 2020 or early 2021. He could call the Chinese up and say, just like he did, hey, if Trump tries to do anything, just know that we're... So they would just call him. So it seems to me like this could be some sort of a distraction more than anything. Now, I do want to throw one other explanation out there. I don't know how close you guys have been to following these Ukrainian biolabs saga, okay? But when all this started, when Russia went over and they got they got information on the labs and they brought it to the UN Security Council. And in March of last year, so almost a year ago, they presented this information to the UN Security Council. And we've talked about it before, so I don't really have to go too much into it, but it had to do with the bioweapons, the Slav-specific viruses. It had to do with the fact that many of the people in the eastern provinces were, Russia had tested them after they had come in and taken control of the areas. A lot of these people had been infected with various viruses. They were guinea pigs. They were using the eastern provinces as guinea pigs because they were mostly Russian inhabited. So they were using these ethnic Russians as guinea pigs. All right. Anyway, that information was brought to the UN Security Council. See, you guys, a lot of people don't know that. Even well-informed people aren't going to really understand this because of the news doesn't report any of this. So in March of 2012 or 2022, this information was brought to the UN Security Council. Well, it turns out that China had some things to say about it. They took the podium on March 12th of 2022, March 10th of 2022, and they railed against the U.S. biolabs in front of the UN Security Council. In fact, in the article, it says that, quote, as the Russian-Ukraine conflict continues to unfold, the Russian government claimed that its forces found the U.S. as using laboratories in Ukraine to develop biological weapons. But the U.S. denied such claims and accused Russia of spreading disinformation. During a UN Security Council meeting, the one I'm talking about, on this issue, China urged the U.S. to be transparent and provide hard evidence to clarify itself, after the U.S. blamed China for spreading disinformation. So the U.S. since went on and ignored that whole UN Security Council meeting. Okay, because we don't have to listen to it. But it's there. It's there. All the information's been presented. There's some more information with China on that too. They said some pretty harsh stuff in various places last year, about a year ago, about all of this stuff. Basically telling the US you got to come clean. Now, I'm just throwing this one out there, but so maybe the spy balloon is for real. Maybe everything that's being reported is for real. And maybe China's coming over here based on what occurred in Ukraine in the UN biolabs. Now, if that's the case, I know it's probably hard to wrap your head around, but then we're in World War III. You guys probably already realized it, but it's getting worse now. Now, if other countries are indeed worried about these biolabs and what's been done, and you guys, we don't even know the extent of it. These governments do. China knows, Russia knows, our government knows, but we might not know the extent of it yet, how bad it is, how many people have really been infected. I believe they're using the world as guinea pigs. And I believe that they're using their regional biolabs, like for instance, the one in Ukraine, Slav-specific viruses. The one in Taiwan will be Sino. I think Sino is the Asian, right? Those will be Asian-specific viruses that they'll unleash. Okay? These are ways to experiment on different races. Okay? This is Joseph Mengele. All right? This is the Nazi operations continuing. They were known for experimenting on prisoners of war or just citizens of opposing countries that they maybe weren't friendly with. These people are disgusting. And so maybe it is really World War III kicking off, and China and Russia. I mean, it's hard to tell. Most envision World War III would be, kinetic and nuclear. They always prepped us for nuclear. But thus far, World War III has been biological, and then even more so, it's been information and psychological. And you hear everyone talking about fifth generation warfare. I think you hear General Flynn talking about it and many others. And that's exactly what we're witnessing. It's a war unlike any other war that's ever been seen. Now, that's not to say it's not going to go nuclear. I think that nuclear is a plan that they have. Yeah, it will go nuclear. Yeah, Nadine, I think you're right. We just haven't seen it yet, and it's going to go nuclear. Now, I don't see anybody that's going to stop this at this point. You guys understand the dire situation that we're in here? Okay, we have a spy balloon from another country that's flying over our country. And our government is not going to shoot it down. They fucking came out and told the people that they are not going to shoot it down. Now, we're so dumbed down, ridiculously dumbed down, that they decided to give the reasoning that they don't want to damage property or hurt people. So, boy, they think you're stupid. Because again, over Montana, when they first noticed it, they could have shot it down like nothing. So they're playing everybody for fools. Now, I don't know how they could keep this up. I don't know. There's too many people that can see through this. But again, there's nothing anybody's going to do about it. Our politicians are owned. We had a guy on Fang Fang and Eric Swalwell sitting on committees. They're all owned. And so I don't see how we get out of this. Our government has set us up to be slaughtered, to be taken over. And I'm not sure what to do about it. I don't see, somebody's got to come in and do something. I can't do anything. I have to engage in violence. And they knew this because that's what January 6th was about. because it's just, Hitler did the same thing. The Reichstag, false flag, and the reason is because that set the tone now for political dissidents, for domestic terrorists, for insurrectionists. Okay, and so it chilled the protest. It chilled your ability to protest. It chilled your ability. Matter of fact, it chilled your ability to even question any of the narrative with regard to this. And so now, when things get worse than just a rigged election, which occurred, and there goes any monetization on this, which I've never taken a penny from YouTube anyway. But it's worse than a rigged election because that was bad. But now these people are setting us up to be slaughtered. Okay? In the worst, slaughtered. At best, they're setting us up to be enslaved. And they're doing it soft. It's a soft enslavement. And this is what I've railed about, you guys. I've said they're not gonna come out and say it. They're gonna do it. And then with technology the way that it is, and the technology that they've held back and not implemented yet, which some of us know about, this technology is going to be used. And once they make their move and have full control, they're going to snap, they're going to flip the switch, and you're going to have drones patrolling neighborhoods. You're going to have satellites watching everything. Look at China and COVID right now, and the COVID lockdowns and all this. This is what you're going to have. The technology's there. You don't think that they're going to get our sons and daughters to police us and to police this business? That's what they got robots for. Go pull up some of them videos from Boston Dynamics or from iRobot or from, these other companies, and look at these things that they have out there. So those will be the police officers. They'll be robots. Initially, they wanted to degrade our police force, okay? And this is what the George Floyd stuff and the police brutality stuff and the racist stuff, everything they do has multiple benefits to them. They wanted to have the UN have to come in, and we saw glimmers of this with the mass shootings that they've been staging for years. Again, it's part of the same thing, and I'll get to the point in a second. The mass shootings, then they showed what their plans were, because John Kerry then went to the UN and drew up some kind of agreement with the UN where they would come in and start overseeing our police, okay, because of the mass shootings. The other supplemental thing with that is the police brutality that they make such a big deal about. I did a video the other day that talked about 1,055 people were killed by police in 2021. Oh, really? I would like to, a UN plan was stopped and hidden during the trucker protests in Canada. I'd like to learn more about that. I respect you guys. Honk, honk. So, yeah. Oh, a plane. Oh, really? Interesting. Very interesting. So where was I, you guys? The UN. So the other side of that was the police brutality stuff. They amplified all of these, these things that shouldn't have been amplified, because George Floyd wasn't out of bounds. Okay, like I mentioned, that guy was a scumbag, right? A record as long as whatever. And he was killed by police as he was resisting. Well, 1,055 people are killed by police in 2021, but only 200 of them were black. And so 800 of them were white. When 50% of the crime, especially in that area in Minnesota, is committed by black people, then those people are right. That is out of bounds. George Floyd is out of bounds. It's out of bounds the other way. Because you should see, don't take this the wrong way, But if half of the crime is committed by black people in that area, then you should assume that half of the accidental fatalities by police that we mentioned, 1,055 in 2021, then you would assume that half of the 1,055 fatalities would be black people. Because if black people is involved in 50% of the crime, then proportionately 50% of black people should be 50% of the fatalities should be black people. But it's not. It's only 20%. 80% is non-black, and the majority of that's going to be white. So it is out of bounds. It's out of bounds the other way. Okay? There's too many white people or non-black people being killed by police in the United States. Okay? Because the proportions. 50% of the people involved in crime are black. Then 50% of the people who are killed accidentally by cops should also be black. That's proportions. That's statistics. But it's way out of whack. But they sure make a big deal about it. Anyway, the point is that between the mass shootings, the staged mass shootings, and then basically the staged outrage on police brutality, those two things were to bring in the UN to oversee our police force. And why? Because our police force is made up of our sons and daughters. Okay? In the town that I'm at, probably every town, you have to live in the county that you police in. Okay? It's community policing. The idea is that the police officers in the area have a stake in the community. They have a footing there. Okay? So those people, in some areas, they'll do dirty shit. They'll follow orders. But in the vast majority of counties in the United States, believe me, sooner or later, those police, our sons and daughters, our brothers, our sisters, they're not going to enforce bullshit orders. Okay? They're not. They're smart people and they're good people. You guys know this. And so, enter the UN. You got to bring the UN in. You have to get rid of the locals, and you have to, again, you got to central and you got to take it out of the hands of Americans, and you got to centralize it in the hands of the controllers. And so that's what all those plans are. Now, Mary, hey, I finally get to see you on a live feed at a Goodwill store. I found a pamphlet by California Congressman in 1970. They spoke at, wow. Who was the congressman? Oh man, I'm gonna look into that one. I'll reply to that comment if you don't know the name of that congressman. I think I know who you're talking about. So anyway, don't be disturbed by my face, okay? It might be a little bit ugly to look at this early in the morning. So the point with this was to get the UN involved in our police forcing so that they could do, hey bro, oh Catherine, you're probably not a bro. Nowadays I don't know. Bless you too, hon. So now it doesn't look like they were going to get the UN in to take over our police forces, but that's fine. They always have plan Bs, don't they? The plan B is go to Boston Dynamics, go to one of these websites and go look at these robot police. Now, there you go. Those things will follow orders from the controllers. Those things will shoot on grandma. Oh, my God. Have you seen that robot dog, Nadine? Oh, my God. And I think it shoots stuff right out of its eyes or something. Bullets. Those will be the things that are enforcing. Yeah, it's Skynet, really. They're going to be the ones enforcing this because they will shoot on your grandma. They'll shoot at your uncle for disobeying some dumb, order or not staying locked down in their home, whatever the case is, while your sons and daughters will not. And so it's a full-out takeover. Okay, they've already got our FBI through control of our government first and then down in the FBI. So I don't know if anybody's going to come save us from this. Now, I mean, I hope so. I hope something gives. I don't know. I mean, there's one man that would have done something about this. He would have. In fact, they probably wouldn't even have launched the balloon if that man was in the presidency. And he had to be removed. And we saw how that was done. I'm going to find out anyway, Mary. I know who you're talking about because I've looked in, I've seen a documentary about it. But we'll get to that. So, it's Donald Trump. I don't know if he's the real deal or not. I look at his enemies. I followed this since 2015 really, really closely with this guy. And what I found was prior to that, him running, that this man was loved by everybody. No, I can't name the documentary. It could have been anything. I will be replying to you, though, here soon when I get done with this. I'm going to go look it up, Mary. So I saw the people who came out against the guy, and yeah, I think there could be something biological in a balloon, in that payload. I suspected an EMP being on it. But again, it could just be surveillance where they're gonna send something secondary in, now that they have the surveillance on it. Like here's where this base is, here's where we have to target this, and then they'll come in with their secondary phase of this. Now, also, I wanted to let you guys know, it's being reported now that another balloon has been found in Latin America. So, I mean, are they sending one up now too? Or is this just about Latin America? I doubt it. It's all going to be about America. You better believe that. Latin America's peanuts. They can control that. Once they get America, they'll take the rest of the world, no problem. It won't. So the first and foremost, this goal has to be America. And then from there, once they get that, Latin America, big deal. That'll be gone. So I don't think that the second balloon is checking out, Colombian drug cartels or anything like that. I think that one's heading up here too. There's reports a few hours after the sighting in Montana where we have a user. I don't know if I can find it again, but a user on Twitter in Montana reported that he saw military jets scramble, fly to the sky, and I'm trying to find it right now. Right here, military fighter jets scrambled over Montana, and then there was an explosion. There's a video of it. So it buzzes a neighborhood, and then a massive flash in the sky, and then the blast could be heard, and then the screen goes white, and smoke can be seen. So I don't know if something got shot down. Yeah, you saw that, Nadine? I don't know if they ended up shooting something down, or this goes to you asking about biological warfare. Did it leave something behind? Could it have launched, smaller scout type balloons that maybe are more specific, that we're going to fly down and drop a payload of some kind? There's a payload on this. I guess a really large one, but they're not telling us what it is. But they're using that payload as the reason why they don't want to shoot it down. So think about it. Yeah, that video, it looked like that. Yeah, chemtrail smoke. It really did look like that. So did they launch out some creepers, some spreaders, for maybe they were holding biological payloads and gonna hit and boom? Did this jet scramble to shoot these things down? Because this is hours after the initial sighting. I think the balloon's almost in Missouri at the time that this occurred. So we're not sure what it might have been. So a couple things to think about with that. You know, was it even real? Is it a distraction? Is it carrying an EMP to knock out some electronics at some Air Force bases or something later on? Or is it the Chinese really, is it World War III? And are we in the middle of it? And does this have to do with the biolabs? Does this have to do, there's no telling. Okay, I gotta cut it, you guys. So if you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe, and hopefully we will be back tomorrow. Yeah, and if you get sick, you'll know what happened, you guys. Thank you.